Sophie, I'm sure you're recording this and you'll keep track of this for our archives. Everything will be on our website with a link. This is Artist Talk on Art. We're a 501(c)(3). We've been talking about art, having artists give discussions for over 45 years, usually on the Lower East Side. Recently, because of COVID, we've gone to these virtual meetings every Monday. Join us. July has a link. August has a new link. It's on the website. And as well, the website now has an update of these talks, listing highlights of some of the things the artists have said with some images. And I am looking for some more images as well, as you'll see. So everybody welcome. Artist Talk on Art. Artists make this what it is, and we talk on art. It really is that simple. I want to welcome everybody. We will be going around and having artists discuss. Feel free at any time to ask any questions. Try and understand if, like I had my dog barking before, it might disrupt people's screens. The person speaking will be picked up on your screen unless you've pinned somebody else. Any questions, ask as we go. I love the dialogue. You don't have to ask a question. You could just make a statement, express what you like. Sometimes I keep it simple when I don't want to interrupt the video, but welcome everybody. And we are a 501(c). There's no fee, no charge for this. If you'd like to contribute, our website's atoanyc.org. We can accept credit cards. You can email me, very simple. Sophia's posted it on the chat, the information. So welcome everybody. Tonight we're gonna start with sort of a continuation. This is our 15th Monday Open Studios. And we hit a topic where we hit the USPS Art Project, United States Postal Service Art Project. Very complex and simple project. Simple in that two artists work together and share artwork. Complex in that it's being done because the US Postal Service is a political tool right now. There's a lot to be said. This is using the post office, using artists to collaborate in a new way. This is something that's a win-win on so many levels. And as anything, any good art project, it's yielded things you don't expect. Chrissy Massey is here. She'll speak later. I'll have you speak after the two who present. She's a founder of the project. And, you know, it's almost like the Post-it project. Somebody starts something, it goes viral. It's a new format. It's a good thing. You know, and I mean good in an important way, sort of platonic way. And, you know, bravo to you. Without further ado, let's start with Fran and Eileen. Fran Beallor and Eileen Hoffman. And we'll start with Fran. We'll see if we can get the screen sharing. That's always a trick for the first person.
You know, I just missed pretty much your whole intro about the USPS because my internet decided to go off and on. So I left the meeting and came back. I'm gonna
let Christina Massey give a short summary.
That's what I was gonna suggest.
Okay.
Excellent.
Christina, go ahead.
Sure. So yeah, the project's called the USPS Art Project. Concept is really simple. I started it shortly after we went into lockdown here in New York City, feeling really just kind of depressed and sad. I couldn't see my friends. Your shows all got canceled, and also just felt a little not sure where to even go in my own work. And then I started seeing all these posts on social media to save the post office, and the idea kind of came very quickly, and then it spread very quickly. So now there are over 500 completed collaborations at this point. We have 3 different venues to show the work and counting. Still working on some other locations. With the increase of COVID in a lot of states, it's kind of stalled a lot of that process, but if you are still making them, I'm still working on trying to find more locations. And yeah, the idea is for artists to kind of establish a deeper connection with some of their friends or family that they may not be able to see right now, and give kind of purpose if you were feeling kind of like me, unsure where to go with your work in this kind of crazy time. And been really fun. A lot of artists have told me it was the first thing and only thing for some people that they've done since this all happened.
Very nice. Very nice. It's claps, I think.
Absolutely.
So many things said here and done by artist does deserve. Very nice. Fran, let's start. I'll have you jump in, and you and Eileen Hoffman, is it, are on the project?
Yes. Yeah. So I think Eileen's gonna share her screen first, and and talk about the piece we did together that where I did a drawing and sent it to her. Right, because the way it works is each artist does a piece of artwork partially and sends it to the other, and the other person completes it. So Eileen's going to talk about the piece I sent to her that she completed.
So I don't know if I can share my screen. There we go. Hold on. So yeah, I just have a few I just put a little bit of my work, because just to show my choices for the collaboration, because I don't know if people here are familiar with my work. I'm a sculptor, and my work is grounded in textiles, because that's what I focused on since I was young. And I've always, it's the main focus of, one of the main focuses of that I'm trying to speak to is making the undervalued and unseen culture of women's work visible. And I've done a lot of work using different plastics and elusiveness in the past. And when I discovered dura-lar about 5 years ago, everything took off for me, because it's a mylar that's made for artists to work on, and it's archival, and it takes the paint beautifully, and it has more sculptural possibilities. So I made these demonstrator bags, and it's, you know, my background paintings against the sculpture bags, and these were inspired from the Women's March on Washington in 2017, and I've developed these into some larger projects. But I'm just showing this because these show what I worked on with Fran, and these were a suite of boxes that I made on. All my work has patterns, and there's writing in it, and it's made to be challenging to see. This piece has 2 layers, the background writing, and the foreground is sewn into the dura-lar with chenille stems.
Can I ask a question, or do you want to wait till the end?
I guess you could ask a question. I could decide whether to answer now or later.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a plastic film?
It's more like a mylar. It's thick.
Is it printable? Can you print on it?
You probably can. I
think
I'm a
you can.
photographer. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This is an installation that I did. The stories remain, and it shows, you know, the different ways that I've investigated with the dura-lar, and has some sewing and some knitting and other textile.
And it's a large piece, right? How big is this?
It's about 6 feet by 10 feet.
Or like 8 feet, because it goes to the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you know, I was watching all these great posts on Instagram of the USPS project, and I was so interested in them. And I was also very busy on some other projects. So, you know, in this time, everything seems harder than it is. But I was like, I want to be in this, do this. So I talked with Fran, and Fran and I, friends who've been working together a lot on the New York Artist Circle for that. And I said, Fran, who would be a good person for me to do a collaboration with on this? And she said, well, I would love to do it with you. And so I was like, great, because, you know, our work is very different, because Kira's my work grounded in this, and she's very, you know, she's gorgeous, realistic artist. And I was immediately interested to see what we would do. So I sent her a small pocketbook that was similar to the demonstration bags. That was sort of a prototype that I had made, and had never figured out what I wanted to put in it. Nothing was right. And I said, oh, this is what it needs. It needs like drawing in it, that kind of, that she would do. And I mean, I saw one of her portraits, but she took it further. So then.
Eileen, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
I see a great sense of geometry in the few works you've sold. When I see these images here that you have up, I almost see buildings.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
A very nice work, very
Thank you.
the texture, the air, the lightness, translucence.
Thank you.
You know, it's both playful, but it is in a restricted geometric form. The
Right.
order is obvious.
Right.
Eileen, what kind of an implement do you use to imprint on the dura-lar?
I paint on it. I paint on it with the golden liquid paints.
With brushes?
Yeah, I mean brushes or the markers, the little nib markers.
Uh-huh.
I kind of figured out my own system.
And I love your color palette.
Thank you.
So bright and beautiful.
Thank you. So this is what Fran sent me.
Wonderful.
This was the drawing that Fran did for me to work off of. When I first saw it, I was okay. It was really interesting to think about what I was going to do with this. I had a lot of different thoughts, and I wanted to color it in because it's on a cream background, and I, of course, wanted it to be on pink. And I tried, with my own pencils on a piece of paper to see what it would look like, or to put my own patterns in the background, but nothing was right. It just, her, and what she does is so exquisite and so Fran, to collaborate. So it was very clearly a pocketbook, had to, be made into a bag. So I put it around, I tried it around some of my patterns and stuff. And then I had this as a way of getting the pink around it. This is a sheet of dura-lar on top. And this actually was my test piece because it's much larger than what I ended up using because I was still experimenting on the size that I wanted to make it. So I redid it, but that is one layer of dura-lar that I made. And this is the bag. It's 3 layers of dura-lar, 3 layers of painting. The background painting is, you can see the red little flower patterns, and then there's that pink pattern, and on top is some writing in white and cream. And then this is the handle I sewed into the dura-lar with that pattern, and then here I am putting her piece into the bag, inserting it into the bag, and voila, there's my bag. There it is, and this is a close-up of where you can, her joint still shows through, and then there's the writing over it. So I personally was very excited because I've actually wanted to, expand what I combine with these, and I don't really work like that, and I just love the collaboration with a different way of drawing than I draw. So.
And I love what you did with it. I hadn't heard all these details, so this is all exciting to hear. I really like over on the left side how there's the red compact, and right in the middle the word girl stands out. And you said that was an accident, right? But
it was a fortuitous
artistic accent.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this piece of writing is from a diary entry that I have from when I was in my early 20s about, writing about the sexism that I was experiencing in my life as a young adult, and it always rang true to me. And it's part of that sort of being invisible, that stuff not being heard and told, and so it's there but not there. You can read glimpses of it. It's part of what I'm working on. Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks.
Very nice. Very interesting. Very meaningful. I mean, just I sense a personal note. I do want to ask you, the image that you're drawing, the flowers. Tell me about that.
Well, I worked in my early 20s as a textile designer, so I had that flower base, and I had in my room growing up, it was pink, and I had this pattern on the wall, and I hated it. And I want a pattern that's not a pattern. Like I don't want it to be a textile pattern that you would print and wear, but I want it to give to speak to that, give the feeling of that, and the repetition. I want the repetition to be there. I'm pushing the monotony. That's what I'm thinking, and I have. I like that it's hand drawn. I think there's something that gets communicated versus having it printed. And I'm not a truly obsessive artist, so I'm pushing myself to do it as obsessively as I can. But I really love artists who really are and can do that.
That's quotable.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you. Would anybody like to share thoughts? And then, of course, we'll move to Fran. Fran, the floor.
Okay, so Eileen, if you stop your screen share, then I will start mine. Whoops, I just made my program disappear. Okay. Let's see if we get to the right place here before I screen share. Okay, now I am ready officially. Okay. All right. So I know that some people here are familiar with my work, but not everyone is. So like Eileen, I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction about my work. So over the many years I've been painting and drawing, I have this fascination with painting and creating still lives that are not so still. So I like objects that are falling, floating, or flying, and I like that you can't quite tell which one it is. And so this is a painting that I finished recently. Call it Conjuring Gravity, because at first I thought of it as myself grabbing for a falling vase, but then I realized that it looked more like I was making things float than stopping things from falling. And that is truly what artists do. They make magic. So I thought it was kind of appropriate. And I did this during the COVID period. I guess I needed a little magic with all this craziness going on. in this next piece, this is a painting I did also of flying, floating objects. I call it Free for All, and it's a lot of toys. And I was at this period in my painting trying to lighten up and do things that were more fun. I also did this next piece, is called Stone Soup. And I've done a whole series of these, what I call ugly fruits and vegetables that aren't so perfect. And in this piece, they just all started falling in. And then in this next piece, well, you just saw this piece. So I love that Eileen turned it on its side. When I originally drew it, I drew it like this. It was a vertical, but
realize that.
yeah, I know, but the truth is it could work in any direction, actually, because it's just a bunch of items. And I just want to say too, so I couldn't help but be influenced by the fact that I know that Eileen does purses and women's objects. So when I did something for our collaboration, I thought about, well, exactly what she was talking about, like what goes in a purse. So I was thinking about all the things that might be in a girl's purse. But this is what Eileen sent to me for our collaboration, which is one of her beautiful bags. And so I had that same thought of doing something, what objects would go into this bag. And so I was going to do a drawing and insert it like the other drawing. And then I had this idea that maybe I could do the drawings and cut them out and place them all in like real objects in a handbag. And so what you're looking at now is all of the different objects that I drew and then cut out. And they're, so my imagination went a little wild this time when I was thinking about what would go in a woman's purse. A lot of people have had interesting reactions to the fact that there's a gun in there. And mind you, I looked online, pink handgun, and a whole bunch of them came up. So you too can own a pink handgun. I was thinking about that news article recently about the McCloskeys, the couple that went out on their porch with he had a shotgun and she had a handgun, and they were pointing them at the protesters. And I thought, you know, so many people in our country are walking around with interesting things in their purse, right? Yeah. So
well, if you've ever driven up into Vermont and stopped for the great farm vegetables and all the local things, you also stop into stores where you can get a gun and you see the nice women's guns lined up.
Interesting.
Yeah, you don't. It's probably more common than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
My son and daughter-in-law live in Vermont, and he says everybody's got a gun. They're just not shooting other people.
Well,
But they can. They
Mm-hmm.
could. They wanted to.
Right. Yeah.
Very bad.
It's protection from animals.
Right. And then Eileen mentioned about putting a self-portrait in the bag. I did manage to get one in there in this bag because I did do the phone with the self-portrait on it. So this is the front of the objects, and this is the back of the objects since they're two-sided. And I have a couple of close-ups. I really had fun drawing that gun. I
love that gun.
In the past, had you ever thought of cutting out your drawings and treating them as objects to be placed in something?
I am so glad you asked that, Barry. I want to say no, although I feel like maybe now that you're asking me, maybe once upon a time I did do something where I cut it, but I'm going to have to give that some thought and get back to you. But in general, I don't. But this is a whole new thing, and it was so fun to do, actually. And that's something that's so cool and exciting about this collaboration and what Christina's done by giving us this opportunity is to bring out certain kinds of creativity or ideas that we might not have otherwise done. This photo I just have to show the 3 dimensions of the piece. And there's where I signed our names before I put it in the bag. I was gonna just drop all the items into the bag, but then it occurred to me that if I did that, they'd just all sit in a heap at the bottom. So I decided to actually glue them together in this formation, and that took a while to figure out, and I had to get them just the right size so that they would fit in the bag. So this is them, they're actually glued together, and there's the back. And here's me holding it. And then voila, it went into the bag. And I tried it the other way around with Eileen's writing on the front, but it really obscured everything so much that I had to turn it around.
The writing is the back for that very
reason. Right. So there's the front, and there's the whole bag with its handle, and there's the back.
Ooh.
And so you see her writing. Not only is it hard to read, but it's backwards. She's really not making it easy for us. I've stood with your pieces and really examined them to try to read them. And yeah, this is the box she sent me the bag in. So
that's a great story. It's sort of the evolution of an artwork with a very unique path. Artists have done this before, exquisite corpse drawings where they do fold, and artists have paths. That doesn't mean it can't be done again anew for a current reason. What a project. The point of my question was, yes, it opens you up to something new, both of you. And how I love how you said, well, I could just throw it in the bag, but then it wouldn't fit right. And that's art. That journey of what do you do next? And then you say, I put it like this, but then you had to put it a certain way. All those steps of the art path, and to watch you share it and to share it back and forth with Eileen. Very nice. Continue if you want. Anybody who'd like to ask questions. I think Christine Massey, do you want to follow up with a little more afterwards?
Sure. I was going to say, this is probably one of my favorite collaborations, just because I know both of your work and wouldn't have guessed to put you two together. And I loved the way that you approached the collaboration. For me, that's been one of the most exciting parts about the project, is because everyone does it a little bit differently. I thought it was such a cool way that you chose to work together. And it really, you can see both your voices. You can see almost like you can see like new ideas forming in your heads after doing this, which was very cool.
Totally. I'm all ready to do a whole series with Eileen, without Eileen, I don't care. But yeah, I mean, I want to do both. We'd like to do more together. So thank you.
Yeah.
Christina, have you ever done a project like this before where it involved other artists and grouped up, so to speak?
I actually had never collaborated on a piece before this project. However, I do a lot of things that involve other people all the time, whether that's through curating or I have a blog that I feature women artists on. I just feel strongly that as a community, it's important to support each other. And often when you have something bigger to say, it's easier to do as a group. So I've done similar, I guess, things in that aspect, but this it happened so fast. It really didn't.
Well, being a curator does explain it. And I'll phrase it that way. Let me say one thing: you get a view. You've seen 500 projects. You've had this different view. What would you say you've learned from this? How has it impacted you? How has it changed your art? I know it's got to be great, because I've been lucky to have similar experiences.
I think for me, the most rewarding thing is hearing that artists really are getting something emotionally out of it, and inspired by the project. Some artists have decided they're going to continue to collaborate after this. But yeah, it's just sometimes you get to see that before image because they'll, like, say, post it to stories or something, and a few weeks later you see the finished. So in your head you start to think like how you would approach it, and it's always different every time. The artist always has a different way of looking at it, and I just think that is really, really fun. And yeah, everything from tiny little ceramic pots that I never would have thought people would be doing together in the mail to people creating even videos, stop motion. One person made a stop motion video. It's like really, really creative. I mean, I'm amazed at the creativity that is out there. So.
Very nice, nice to hear. Any thoughts anybody would like to share, or Christine, would you like to tell us about your work a little bit briefly?
I can, yeah. I did pull up if you guys on the Instagram, where you can see most of the completed projects. So if you want to check that out, please do. My own work is easiest to find. Oh, I have this open. If you need more information about it, on my website, I have all the information about the project if you want to get involved. But for those of you who don't know my work very well, I'll share quickly. I do everything from 2D to 3D, small to large. Some of the most recent work is this mixed media glass sculptures. In 2019, I got a grant from the Brooklyn Arts Council to do what's called experimental glass blowing. And what I would do, I'd use a lot of repurposed materials. So I got copper from a lighting factory in Queens, and glass and copper don't melt at the same temperature. So I would create a form, blow the glass through that form to create a weird object. And then all of this kind of quote unquote foliage that you might see is repurposed aluminum. And this is plastic all in there. And on my own Instagram, you can see a little bit more angles. These are all, I cut everything open, wash them out, paint them, I weave them, sew them together, and combine them with multiple materials. Ever since we've been on shutdown, I've been kind of obsessed with these little ones that have a bit of New York in them. So the ones that have like a little skyline, or they'll say New York City on it somehow. All the aluminum I repurpose is from craft beer cans, and that industry has started doing a bunch of cans that were to support each other as small businesses. Then they started to do ones to support Black lives, to support trans lives. And so it's all extremely in the moment. And so I've been trying to collect those cans and repurpose them into work. And that's when I had to get ready for a show. So that was one of the newest ones.
I wanted to ask you, you blew the glass inside that metal structure?
Yeah. I have an assistant since I'm new at glass blowing, and he's been doing this for 10 plus years. It helps me understand the thickness of the glass and how many times we have to flash it. But yeah, I blow it through the copper, which creates a weird form. So,
and in general, glass blowing is a two-person job. It's not a one-person job.
It is. It's a bit of a collaboration in that way. So, but ironically, I almost feel like I've been on quarantine for a whole lot longer. I had hurt myself back in November, and basically I'm lucky enough that my studio is right down the street from my apartment. But I had to go to physical therapy and couldn't really move around a whole lot, and was making a lot of very small pieces like this because I had to just sit at my desk, and I couldn't really move. And then this happened as soon as my knee got better. So I feel like I've been stuck in the same place for a very, very long time. But now I'm able to work bigger. I was doing a lot of these very tiny ones because for months I couldn't. My knee wouldn't let me.
Christina, you do get this beautiful form. It looks floral, it looks light, and at the same time, you sense the steel. It looks strong. It has a, both a metallic feel. Dale Chihuly, an influence?
Not really. I find more influence. It's hard to pinpoint one person because I have so many, but I'm actually not the biggest fan of his work. I can appreciate it, but I think for me, glass blowing, part of why I was intrigued by it, I'm very intrigued by any process that kind of gets labeled into the craft realm, and kind of changing the way that you look at that. So I tend to like works that mix the medium and not necessarily solidly glass, but it changes the way that you see it. And I've, so far at least, really enjoyed just clear, or like for example here, sometimes I'll sandblast the surface so that it has a design on it. But for me, they almost have this crystal ball type feel, and I like to keep kind of that purity of the glass in a way.
Beautiful.
But that's a small portion of my work, but I don't want to take the whole talk, so.
Thank you for sharing. Any thoughts from anybody? It really was intriguing work.
Christina, wow, I'm just excited to see this new work because I'm familiar with your work that doesn't use glass. So I can see why Barry might have thought of a glass blower, but I've seen mostly big montages you've made of other kinds of materials, but adding the glass to it is just exquisite.
Thank you. I think you're talking about like these big guys, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Beautiful work.
Yeah.
I am not familiar with your work personally, but the glass work, the glass and steel and metal work, especially with those personal touches with the city skyline, and where you just kind of, you'll make sure you have queens or any kind of reminiscent of home, I think is fascinating and beautiful. So.
Thank you.
Yes, I look at it and I see something that's almost light and airy that could take off because of the gesture in it, it's like, but they're really beautiful.
Thank you.
Christina, I've always been drawn to the colors that you use in your sculptures. So, bravo.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Very nice. I think if we could stop screen sharing, I'd like to move to Linda Lewis. Is it, Linda?
Yes, yes.
Linda, where are you? Where is your studio or your home where you're at?
My studio is in my home. I'm in Huntington, Long Island.
Okay. Would you like to screen share? Or would you can just talk? Obviously, we see a beautiful selection behind you.
Yeah. Can I'm still seeing Christina's. Okay, good.
Sorry, my internet's being a little slow.
Yeah, I could. I'm not really that good at connecting you with Instagram.
First, let's just talk about what's behind you.
I could hold up
Yes.
one of my guys. This is Spence. He's one of 150 of these drawings. They're all on 17 by 14 paper in 5 colors of ballpoint pen. I love to do the face. I've got 9 series based on the face. This is the latest one. It started about 2 years ago, and I kept doing them until, and I'm not done with them. I'm still working on them. There's a purpose behind them, and the purpose is to point up, to illustrate how we are all equal, even though we are different looking. We're all equal in as human beings. The name of the series is Family of Humans. Family, the word family does not have an I in it. It's only F-A-M-L-Y, because we are all Earth people. I was very honored to be approached, to be found by a group called Room, and a sketchbook for analytic analysis. It's an international organization of psychologists and psychiatrists who use art in their publication, the name of which is Room. And I am the centerfold of their June issue and their online presentation. These guys, I'm sorry?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Is that you, Susan? Can you put up my Instagram page?
You know, I've never connected Instagram through this. I don't know. I could try.
Okay, I'm not sure how to do it because
I can do that if you want.
Family, F-A-M-L-Y.
Let me ask you a question, Linda.
Yeah.
I think it's a great project, and I love the idea. Are you familiar, was it Family of Man, the photography project by, was it Steichen?
Yes, yeah, I don't, but I don't know that, I'm not familiar with that project.
It was a photography project, I think, in the late 60s.
Yes.
It was Edward Steichen.
Very well known.
Very well known, and did the Family of, I probably mislabeled Family of Man, hopefully mankind or humankind.
Right.
Well, it was Family of Man, and it was various photographers that he pulled together to.
Oh, photography. Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
it was
different.
photography.
Very different. Yeah.
Very different, but the core, a similar concept. I certainly like the hand touch and what you've done. Do you see groupings? I mean, you abstract a little, yes?
Did you say abstract? No, they're not really. They're all very realistic. When you look at people, if they're not smiling and you exclude their externals, like clothing and jewelry and eyeglasses and whatever, they look like this. They're all different. Everybody has a different look to them, but we seem to judge people, unfortunately, by the color of their skin or the shape of their face or their eyes or where they come from. And this project it tries to make people see others as a family, which we all are.
I think you once said that these are from your imagination, right? That they're not.
They're imagined portraits, yes. Yeah, they are imagined portraits. And every one of them is different, and they all have a different expression. And it's quite amazing how when I'm working on one, a few lines, and each one of these portraits is comprised of thousands of lines. A little subtle change can make a man into a woman, or a person who looks maybe Caucasian into somebody who's Asian or Black or Asian, African American. Subtle changes make people look different, but inside we all have the same needs and the same wants. And so the project is is very, very close to my heart. I would love to entertain any questions someone might have.
Do you give them names?
It was very hard to organize 150 faces without names. I didn't want to give them numbers because numbers don't, somehow, it just didn't seem like a good idea. So yes, they all have first names, but not because I wanted to label them, just because I needed to keep track of them. And they're all photographed and they're all cataloged and named. Yes, named.
Linda, this is the second time I've really seen it, and I always follow your posts on Instagram. And anybody that follows Linda, just about every day she does post. I've always been attracted to the background that, to me, it looks like a police lineup. Have other people referred to that?
No.
Sorry.
No. No. Somebody said, "Oh, they scare me." Well, yeah. Okay.
Well, that's
they're not meant to be scary.
I mean, but that's odd that, you know, it draws different emotions from different people.
Yeah, yes, that is interesting.
So I applaud you for this project. It's great.
Some, you know, people, ordinary people, aren't beautiful or handsome. They're just ordinary. We're all ordinary looking. And that's what they're meant to be. They're just meant to be any people you might meet. They're various skin colors. Some of them seem to be trans. Some might be non-binary. They're Asians, African Americans, Native Americans, any kind of person you might see in a street in a city. And I hope that we don't marginalize people. And I think in this country, we have a history of doing that. And I would like that not to be. And so this project works towards that end.
Linda, it's Susan.
Yes, Susan, hi.
Hi. You know, I studied Motherwell years ago, and he felt he was communing with another level that, you know, gave him a direction in his paintings. Do these just come to you? Do you think about them beforehand? Are they, you know, is there anything of that type of feeling?
This is a wonderful question. I have absolutely no preconception when I start. Absolutely none. I have no idea who's going to be the final, who is going to appear when I'm finally done. And often, as I said before, it changes from one person to another while I'm working on it. And I do go into a kind of, I guess, another zone, another place. I will often have something on, some music or even the TV or something. I'm not listening to it. I'm not watching it. I like a little noise while I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea what I'm hearing or what the sound is about, because I'm totally into that particular drawing. David says that, my husband says that, some of you know him, he thinks I'm channeling them from some other dimension.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering about. Yeah.
Yeah, he says, I don't know. I guess that's possible. but I'm not aware of that. I wish you could see them close up. They're, if you're on Instagram, it's Family of Humans. Family does not have an I in it. And you can see them all very, very close. They're interesting to see in close. I wish I could.
That's okay. Thank you, Linda. Maybe next time,
Yes.
more detail.
Okay, that would be great.
You really spoke beautifully about the intention of the project, and what a good intention at that. And I think what we've learned from everyone talking, artists jump into their work. We get micro focused, 1,000 lines, like you say, and those lines lead you on a path, a little change, and we look like different people.
Right.
So we are both very similar and unique at the same time. Not a dichotomy. It's what it is.
I have to say something about artists. I have a lot of artist friends, as we all do, of course. And I find that artists are incredibly generous-spirited people. And I'm very proud that that's the case. I feel that that is true. I hope you all agree with me. I think that artists are open to new things, or open to many different kinds of people, and that's part of what this series is about.
I think that's a beautiful thought. I've been a gallerist. Any other curators, gallerists here, they might say something different. But yes, artists are beautiful people in many, many ways, but often an ego rides and causes some problems with sharing. We haven't seen that here. We've seen some beautiful sharing, collaboration, critiques in the old days. People would cry in school. Here, we're sharing positive thoughts, and that's what it's about. So thank you, Linda.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the ego part that's baked in. I mean, if you don't have an ego, I don't think you can really aspire to just about anything in life. But what I meant was that I think artists they're just generous spirited, and that's my thought.
Yes, and certainly this group is. I'd like to go to Lynn. Lynn, would you like to present next? Surprise, that's the way we
Well,
roll.
hello.
Lynn,
It looks like, am I the only one from the West Coast? Or is there somebody else?
Sophia. Sophia's from
Portland.
Hey, actually I went to
Hey.
school up in Oregon City. That's where I graduated high school, but I'm actually from the state of California, which is where I'm at now. So hi.
Nice.
So hi everyone. I'm Lynn Heiner. I am here in Southern California, and I'm a palette knife acrylic artist who primarily, my two primary focuses are abstracted florals and automotive, which are both kind of random and different, but if you know my history, they fit pretty well. I grew up with my dad rebuilding and racing Porsches, but the car series didn't actually come until a collector of my other work asked me if I would do his brand new dream car. And so that was the first of many. And for the last 3 years, I've actually gotten to travel the globe with that series because it's so different from what you would normally find for automotive artwork. I am gonna try, I was able to do it on my phone, but I'm gonna see if I can share, if I can figure this out. Well, I don't know if I can do it here, but what I would do, I can show you, is on my phone. I know I can bring that up. Here's a few pieces of work that I've got in my floral series. Since I've been home personally, I actually had shows in the UK, on the East Coast, and over weirdly in Saudi Arabia this year, and all of them have been canceled. So it's been kind of weird. I needed to have the time to expand my inventory, and now it took me about 7 weeks of being home before I could really, after my projects were all done, to actually start exploring what that is. Now, the abstracted florals actually came as a conversation for me personally with God about a very difficult season in my life where I'd had third-degree burns, and it was a year, 10 days in the hospital, 6 surgeries, and a year of physical and occupational therapy to get my right hand working again. And that series, after I came back to painting professionally, I felt like this series kind of emerged from that. After some exploratory work in the studio, I started with one abstracted layer on top of another. The one being our carefree life is the first layer. The second would be a dark, kind of muted background. And then the florals are the hope and the joy and the beauty, even in the midst of a difficult season. So that series of florals became this dialogue with God about, I do still see that there's beauty here, even though I didn't like the process.
Could we see this work, Lynn?
Yeah, so actually I'm going to show you really quickly here in the studio because I have a few pieces in process. So let's see. I'm gonna flip my camera. Yeah, there we go. So that's one piece in its very first stage. So that's a 48 by 60 that I've just started for a studio tour I'm doing in a couple of months. And then that would be like second phase. So background on top of the abstraction. And then, well, that's the beginning of one of my cars. So I do, a lot of my clients like the car work. So other finished work would be, all right, let's see, where's my camera? All right, so that's a finished piece. Can you see that all right?
Just beautiful.
So those are some of the recent works since COVID, since we've been locked down in COVID. So my Instagram is basically my name. It has much better photos, but those are works that, since it's interesting, I haven't done a ton of the floral work. A lot of it sold last year, and I hadn't been building the inventory because a lot of my car series keeps me busy most of the year.
What's your last name, Lynn? So we can look you up.
Heiner. Yeah, Heiner, H-I-N-E-R. So it's either Lynn Heiner Studios or Lynn Heiner Cars. I keep 2 separate pages because my floral loving clients are not always clear on why I do cars. Anyway, but that's basically how the series, both of the series started, and it's been a lot of joy and a lot of hard work and an amazing adventure to be in this field now professionally, and even gratefully to be able to support our family. Obviously, these months of being home have been a little bit difficult, but it's a joy to explore what's internal again, which is kind of when you get stuck like home, like with what Christina was saying, even when you're kind of placed home, you have to sort of sit with yourself and think about what's going on.
Lynn, when you had your injury, did you learn to use your other hand?
I'm actually left-handed, so it wasn't a big thing. The difficulty for me was just the fact that I had to be in therapy 45 minutes away for half the day. So I didn't create at all. I mean, I was barely creating at that point anyway. I was teaching more than I was creating. And the irony was literally 2 days before my last surgery on my hand, my right hand, dislocated my left shoulder. And it was pretty brutal. I mean, I was 43 at the time, and I thought, how could I have this many injuries? And when I'm ready to kind of step off and start creating again. So it was a trip.
I would say something that, because of Instagram, is how I know Lynn. In addition to what I do, art insurance, all that stuff, I also have been working for the last 2 years for an automobile paint supply company, and I love cars always have as a kid. So when I came across Lynn and her car series on Instagram, I was like, oh my God, this is like combining my two loves here. And it wasn't right immediately after. It was a little while later that I found out about her other page, and especially, Lynn, when you posted on Mother's Day, I was like, wow, you are so extremely talented, and I know you have that faith in God, but I did not know of how it came about, and I'm so pleased that you came on today. And I had been saying to Lynn, you know, I missed, because the last couple of years I had gone to the auto show at the Javits, and I was like, you need to come to this so we can finally meet. That's what's great about Instagram is you know, having friends on Instagram like Lynn. It's really, I'm grateful for this period because of that. So thank you, Lynn.
Thank you guys. Thanks for letting me share. I mean, I know I'm new to the group, but it really is a pleasure. I think for all of us, you know, it's an interesting journey. I went to school actually in New York at Pratt, and my experience there was profound, not only in realizing how many talented people are out there, but also that every one of us have a voice, and it's just finding your audience. So.
Very nice. Thank you. Those are some very deep and hard things you shared there very quickly. I can't express what it is to go through what you went through, and to turn it and to use that and to see a light and to do what you've done. It's obvious you only could have been propelled by that event, as terrible as it was. So as an artist, maybe we work with things, and as an individual stressed to the limit, you somehow worked with it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
And I also want to say that as far as following Lynn on her pages, you know, as she said, she's been to many places, and last year she had been to, I think, Qatar.
No, it was Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
Arabia. And it just through her post shows through her cars and art paintings friends that she's developed because of this. So again, bravo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to move on and ask Susan Tiffin or Sandra Mac Valencia. Susan, would you like to share tonight?
Oh, well, you know, I would love to. I came into this not knowing what it was really, and not thinking I'd be asked to share, but I'll certainly try.
That's great. Where are you now, Susan?
I'm on Long Island in New York. I'm in Roslyn Heights, and my background is fine art. I went to Tyler, the art school at Temple University. I was a potter originally, as well as doing everything else. But I grew up in a photography family, and was working in marketing, and someone stole my camera. I ended up with a digital. I was using all the Adobe products, and that was it. I fell in love all over again with photography. And my children, my family, of course, was thrilled because I was driving them all crazy, you know.
You have a way of sharing images on your screen, or?
Yep. Give me 1 second.
Okay. No, go ahead. Continue.
Let me just see what I'm going to show you. Okay. I do a lot of flowers. It's not all I do, but I do a lot of flowers. So the flower that you see in place of me is one of my flowers. So this may take, let's see if this comes up. It says share content. Why is it not sharing?
It sometimes just takes a second.
Okay. Oh, because I didn't hit done, I think. I'm not as bad as this as I seem. Okay, so this is something older, but I love originally, I started with a love of flowers, particularly dahlias. I love photography. I'm involved in a lot of photography groups. You know, I could have done a slideshow. Wait a minute, let me see if I can pull up a slideshow. One thing that you probably won't see from me is a lot of overdone sunsets, because I'm really kind of what's the word? I'm oversaturated.
Overdone.
You know, yeah, it's you know, so many of the artists, the photographers that, well, I'll show you some. Let's see. Well, that's all flowers. We don't want to do that here. I'll try this. Okay, this is another flower. Okay. Oh, maybe they'll let me do all of these and then we could be sort of done. I love the flowers. I like to do things that are a little bit not typical, meaning, you know, I'm not just centering a beautiful flower. Sometimes if the flower isn't perfect, that makes it even better. And this is one I really like the positioning of. There are a lot of traditional photographers who don't like it, but I'm not doing it for them, you know. I do, well, this is personal, but I love, this is a portrait of my Vermont grandchildren who I haven't seen in forever. So whatever captures my eye kind of, you know, is what I do. If you have any comments, just, you know, please feel free to speak up.
They're really beautiful, Susan. I saw this photo on Instagram, and it's really, really gorgeous.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been in a show, and I do show in local shows. I unfortunately have not really been able to travel. This, if anybody knows Long Island and knows Roslyn and Northern Boulevard, 25A, this is the viaduct that goes over Hempstead Harbor in the fog. It's a favorite subject. I stand in the town and I have a whole series on this. And I just, you know.
What are you using for that? It's not a old Polaroid. What are you using there?
Oh no, it's Canon digital. It's a Canon DSLR. I process in Photoshop, but this was a misty morning. What I did with this is I took most of the color out of it and I added an edge. I don't always add edges, but it seemed to fit. And I'm part of a group that wanted a series of 6. So I actually have a whole series on these particular shots. It's Roslyn Harbor, Bar Beach, Hempstead Harbor, all in fog. I love fog.
There's a nice little geometry, the highway going across that shape, and then the two lights coming up. It's very delicate, almost mimics the trees, organic versus sort of man. Very nice.
Thank you. I have to say there are people who said, oh, you got to take the lampposts out. And I said, no, no, they're not coming out. And I actually, the Manhasset Art Association, I won a little prize with this. And the woman who gave me the prize, because she really didn't know what she was looking at, thought I painted in the trees in the background, those foggy trees. I didn't. I wish I was skilled enough to do that. I keep saying I'm going to go back to drawing, but I haven't done it so far. And this is, you know, the texture, the barn. This again is Vermont. It's actually my son's barn, and I just loved it. And I have a tendency to take a lot of color out. You know, I like that kind of a low-key kind of color. It's not that I don't have saturated, I do. This is Vermont also. For some reason, whenever I photograph Lake Champlain, it comes up blue, and or versions of blue. And I don't think it's the camera. I think there's just a lot of blue in the air. This again was a very early morning, misty, you know, and if you'll let me continue for 1 minute more, because I have a favorite I'd love to show you. Let me see if I could find it real quick. If you go to my Instagram, I have Susan Tiffin 1, And then photo images, I mean, I'll post that stuff. I have a lot on there, not as much as, let's see if I can do these. I have not been out much because I fractured my knee and then I had a hip replacement. So I've been around a lot. Okay, so we'll try these. I couldn't find the one I wanted, but.
You have a gorgeous lily on an Instagram page that I'm looking at. It's recent, it's today.
Yes, yeah, I took the
stunning.
photo a while ago.
Really,
Thank you.
really stunning.
Thank you.
Is it a calla lily?
Yes, and you know what? If you go to Hicks Nursery, you'll know what I mean.
I have a bunch of them in my garden.
Right. If you go to Hicks Nursery very early in the morning, they let you photograph anything you want. There's no one around. So, and this is from my quarantine. This is my mailbox up the block that I just did a texture study, and I did pop the colors on this, but I can't even imagine. The community I live in was built in the 40s. So this must have been painted 100 times. You know?
This is the kind of thing David does. Susan.
Yeah.
I yell at him.
Yell at him?
Yeah.
It's whatever you see that you love. This again is Vermont. This is part of my Vermont family. I love Vermont. I love things that are falling apart and, you know, kind of dilapidated, and Vermont's got a lot of that. So this was
Susan, I'd like to say something. The other photo that you showed of your granddaughters.
Yes.
And this one, like even on that one with granddaughters, the background almost looks very painterly, and so does this one. It looks like a painting to me. I applaud you for that.
Thank you. When I print on matte paper most of the time, unless it's something I feel really could use a little pop. And matte paper gives it very painterly effect.
Wow.
You know, if you see my frame photographs up, they do have that depth of almost a painting. And that's the taking the color out of things as opposed to over colorizing things, you know. You do get a painterly effect. Well, this one, it's not the greatest photo in the world, but I like it. So that's the.
It's also based on the paper you use, a more textured paper.
Well, that gives it the painterly effect. It's the matte inks on matte paper, and that does give it. You have to see them in person. And this is from a show I did years and years ago, but I just love this flower, a ranunculus. And the color isn't true. I mean, I color adjusted it and it turned the edges white and I loved it. So here it is. And I thank you for letting me show. I mean, this whole thing is really fascinating to me. I love seeing the artwork and everybody's point of view. I miss that. You know, photography is going in a particular direction, especially on Long Island, and I don't always appreciate it, but
what direction is that, Susan?
Well, you know, some of the camera clubs, you're going to see some beautiful birds and some beautiful animals and some beautiful oversaturated sunsets and waterscapes. And I really, I've had enough of that, so to speak. And I'm not denigrating it. They're beautiful. You know what I mean?
As an art appreciator, I understand that. And coming from Long Island, you know, there's Photo Gallery, and I'm very good friends with the two gals from Long Island Photo Gallery in Iceland. And they're really stretching it, you know, but your stuff reminds me of almost like photorealism. And before, when you were talking about the lake that was blue, it's very interesting because a couple of weeks ago, and a friend of mine, Cheryl Sokolow, she photographs out in Shelter Island, and her stuff comes out great. And she's not a photographer, but she had one that was all blue, like at night. And And I Instagram, I messaged her. I said, how did you get all those blues in there? She never replied to me.
Well, you know, the camera doesn't necessarily see exactly what you see, but it's consistent in that when I photograph Lake Champlain, they come out very blue. They just do. Now I can adjust it and change it, and at times I do, but you know,
That's great.
I love doing this. So, you know, and photo gallery, we have to be very nice to them because I won, I'll be part of a 2-person show in February. I won a prize with them.
Yeah.
And thank
Susan,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Susan, for attending and participating tonight.
Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you. I'm glad I found it. I don't
Great.
remember who showed it to me, but I'm glad I found it. Thank
Great.
you.
Please spread the word. I obviously didn't get to everybody tonight. I will say, if Regina or Michael, if you feel you really want to share briefly, I'm happy to have either one of you, or we can. I'm sorry to have missed, and of course Jackie Rat is here and Sophia. I think maybe we're best.
Yeah, it's fine. Next week.
All right, Barry, but can I ask one question?
Of course.
Lynn, what can you do with a Hyundai Elantra?
Good.
Thanks, everybody.
I want to thank you all. This is, I think, during these times, this sort of really helps to bring us together. Some artists from California, Sophia from the Pacific Northwest, people in Long Island. Terrible times. We have to acknowledge what's going on. And as artists, we continue, we keep on. And yes, many people are doing concerns with nature, with people, with freedoms, with rights, with universality, family of men, family of people, family of humans, family of
Family of humans, yes.
We've seen images where an artist did half of a person, I think it was you, Fran, and half of an animal. And so that's the point, sort of a whole concern. This is Artist Talk on Art. We're a 501(c)(3). We do this every Monday. Look at our website. It's been updated. You may see some quotes of things there. If you want to give me an image of something, I'm happy to post it. We have a new heading sort of summarizing these Monday talks. Every month will now have its own link. The new link is on the website. Stay connected. Tell your friends about this, and thank you for making this, a value. I think it's a value for all of us. Certainly is for me. Thank you, Sophia, for all you do to make this happen, and all the work behind the scenes, and to the other board members that are here, Mitch, Jackie, and Roberta, for everything that gets done, and of course the artists who share. We all share intimate stories. It's very nice. That's what makes us human in a very good way, and maybe global and caring.
And thank you, Barry.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Efforts.
thank you.
Yes, thank you
Thank you,
very
guys.
much.
Yes.
Yep. Terrific. And next time you'll see my face.
Great.
All right, everyone have a great week.
Yes, stay well.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Feel
Thank
good,
you.
Susan.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.